Right, let me first of all go back to the prayer. You may be a secular person wanting to do these exercises. Well, you don't need to pray. That's all right. You do what you find fits best. Or you may just want to very objectively say, thank you, God, for this time. Ask your blessing. Something like that. You don't have to copy me. If it's a help copying me, well, that's good. But you certainly don't have to. I, for instance, don't put my hands together and close my eyes when I pray. I suppose because I think of, or at least I justify it, by John 17, where it says, Jesus lifted up his eyes to heaven and prayed, saying, it says nothing about closing his eyes. On the contrary, I get the impression he looked up to heaven. He literally looked upwards. If you're of an Eastern bent, you probably think he's looking up to the third eye, where you frown between the eyebrows. And he's possibly got his eyes shut or even half shut. But from my point of view, well, God and I have a personal relationship. I don't even need to look up to heaven. But since Jesus does, I like that idea. And by heaven, I actually probably think I mean looking at the sky. Heaven above, You don't have to conform. It's a relationship between you and God. And perhaps you have the view there's no God. Then it's just you. Okay? I'm reminded of Paramahansa chatting to one of the Beatles. And I think it was John Lennon, wasn't it? He'd become a very earnest disciple. I think it's John Lennon. And he says to Paramahansa, that he's addicted to all these things, wine, women and songs sort of thing, Do I have to give up all this to follow you? And Paramahansa says, No, of course not. But if you do these things that I suggest to you, I can't guarantee that you won't want to give them up. And I find that with me too, that, I might do the exercises quite differently to the way I was taught. And then something makes me adjust back to what I think possibly is better. And then I'm not so sure, I change it a bit again. But we trust that we home in on what's right. How you do the exercises, I think, is rather less important in that regard. How you visualize God is crucial. And if it's your path at present not to imagine God, okay, I understand. I really think I probably do understand, because I was secular up to the age of about 23, 24. And even when I saw the light, so to speak, I was anything but conventional, as you can imagine, for decades. But in deadly earnest. Oh my goodness. But I was in deadly earnest when I was a secular humanist too. I was in deadly earnest at school and college and uni. I was earnest for what I understood to be truth. Somehow it was all mixed up in my mind with understanding, knowing, being able to handle the world, to understand things. What is the truth of the matter? Yeah. Not quite sure where all that came from. Except my mum was very bright. And my dad was of strong integrity. Very reliable. Enough of this. I was going to look at the second exercise, doesn't he? Ah, yes. Did you notice on the first exercise, Kriyananda doesn't have his arms rigidly straight, even when they're forward or when they're back. They're slightly bent, aren't they? And incidentally, did you notice for an older man what good shape he's in, both energetically and by appearance, physically? I mean, he looks pretty strong, doesn't he? Paramahansa was known to be pretty strong, overweight, I would imagine, by the look of him, but very much so, but strong. Something to do with these tension exercises. Notice too, there's much too loud a breathing going on, isn't there? Yeah, I don't find there's any need to do that. You do what's natural, and if it makes some sound, okay, it makes some sound. I got a feeling he may have been accentuating it so that you knew how to do when to do the breathing. I'm not sure as Paramahansa emphasized the synchronicity of the breathing with the movements. I was early trained from about 11 years onwards with my mum, following a book by a lady called Indra Devi. I think she was American and well known at the time for yoga. Yoga for You, it was called. And Mum and I, this was our view of what yoga was, these asanas and, these postures and exercises. And understanding of yoga is therefore coloured by those beginnings. I won't say I kept up doing yoga all through my life. There were long periods when I didn't do it and so on. But on and off, I did it a lot. Although not Paramahansa's energization exercises. I started doing those when I was about 26. So I'd been given Yogananda's book, the autobiography, and it had a profound effect on me when I was at uni. When I was something like 25, 24. And start doing the energization exercises until when I first did them with the lessons from Self-Realization Fellowship. I never did them with a group of people and never went to any meetings apart from one in New York, which I thought was very strange. Although I did go and visit a lady called Mrs. White in London at least 3 times, elderly lady who was a bit marginalised by SRF, probably because she'd become a bit dithery, But she was a sweetheart. And that was almost a pilgrimage each time I went to see her, I don't mean I stayed the night or anything, I just went and talked to her for the afternoon. Because London was about, it'd probably take me an hour and a half to get there, Took a long time. So I've been doing the energization exercises on and off for, I'm 76 now, so a few years. You could say I'm experienced, but of course you might say, yes, you're experienced in doing it wrongly, Marshall. Well, see how you get on. But I'll make comments, and if you find them useful and helpful, well, that's lovely. And if you don't, well, I'm sure you won't stick the distance, will you? I might point out in watching Kriyananda do the exercises, it's extremely difficult to do the exercises and talk to explain what you're doing at the same time. And he does it pretty well. Now, with this second exercise, leg recharging, for some reason he folds his arms. Oh, I know I don't. Don't know if it makes any difference. I associate folding one's arms with closing the mind. Be careful when someone's talking to you and they've got the arms folded. They're not really listening. They're resisting what you're saying. However, I don't know why he's got his arms folded here, but he has. The other thing I notice is he doesn't lift his knee very high. I've found, especially more recent times, that I do this exercise much better when I lift the leg such that the upper leg is neither vertical, of course, nor horizontal, but halfway between, 45 degrees. And then I tend to keep that part rigid as I extend the leg to a straight position and then curl it, to a bent position and so on. So I don't let the upper part of the leg move much. And I do a very full, definite, precise movement. I tense whilst moving in both directions, and I'm aware which muscles moving the leg which way, especially the upper thigh muscles. And I relax at each extreme position, where the leg's straight or where it's bent, just for a moment. I don't leave it tense. The other thing is I do it slower. I do almost everything slower. There's a pause at each extremity when I'm relaxing. And I try to have the muscles under some tension in the movement, all of the movement, not just part of it. So if the leg's moving, the muscles are tensing, and if the leg is not moving, the muscles are relaxed for a moment. I don't mean I'm counting 1, 2, 3 to straighten the leg and then 1, 2, 3 to curl it. I'm not actually counting, but I am doing it slower and you'll do it at your speed. And just do it well and gracefully. Now, he may find folding his arms actually helps balance. That could well be. But there's no, and fair enough, there's no reason why I shouldn't hold on to something. I realize I actually have the other leg touching the side of the bed in my room when I do it. So I'm supported, if necessary, to some extent, but probably more psychologically than anything else, of just having the touch of the bed next to my other leg, stabilizing the body. So that may be why he's got his arms folded. I don't know. But you can hold on to something, a piece of furniture, edge of a chair, whatever. Keep the body reasonably straight there. So for me, it does it much too fast. I take nearly twice as long. Nearly. Yeah, looking at it again, I definitely take 3 times as long. I am much more deliberate in it. It's much more a mind practice that I'm doing. And I am definitely conscious of the tension in the muscles and the relaxing. But you see what fits best. Thank you, Dad. Do you know that John Bunyan hymn, "There's no discouragement would make him once relent his first avowed intent to be a pilgrim"? We have no discouragement. Our God is all-powerful. He can do all things yesterday, if that's what's necessary. Leave alone today and tomorrow. He is outside of time and in it, and he will bring you through. This is no earth-handicapped guru. This is a person of persons, like nothing you've conceived of. Friend of friends, wonderful one. And I might point out, just like you are going to be. And that's his will. Who could stand against it? So don't be discouraged by your failures. You start anew every morning, every day, every moment of every day. I can be in the middle of making a mistake and think to myself, this isn't right, and stop. Just like that. Why? Because my hope is not in me, it's in him. He is able. Thank God. And thank God he loves us too. Thank you, Dad.